Welcome to Cosmic Faith, where we explore the intersection of cutting-edge science and timeless spiritual truths. If you're new here, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our weekly revelations about God's incredible universe. If today's exploration opens your mind, please like this video and share your prayer experiences in the comments below. Now let's dive into the quantum science behind what Jesus taught about prayer. Could the strange physics of the quantum world help explain prayer's mysterious connection? Sit back as we explore entanglement, consciousness, and what science is beginning to reveal. We'll look at entanglement, the observer effect, theories of quantum consciousness, and evidence from prayer research. And we'll compare these ideas directly to Jesus' teachings about prayer. First, the long human experience of prayer, then the modern quantum revolution that may help explain it. Let's begin with the mystery of prayer. What follows is an exploration, not proof, but a synthesis of scripture and emerging science. Matthew 6:6. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father, who is unseen. For thousands of years, believers have experienced the power of prayer, a connection that transcends distance. Jesus taught that God hears our prayers instantly, no matter where we are. Matthew 6:6. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. But skeptics ask, how could thoughts reach a divine being? How could God hear billions of prayers simultaneously? Classical physics struggles to explain instantaneous non-local connections like these. Yet quantum physics reveals a far stranger picture of reality. Let's look at the quantum revolution that reframed our understanding of connection. What physicists found surprised even them. Prayer feels immediate, and quantum physics gives us language for immediacy. Next, the discovery that changed everything: entanglement. From thought to particle, the bridge begins here. Coming up, entanglement, Nobel experiments, and why distance doesn't matter at the quantum level. In the early 20th century, physics discovered a baffling new world: quantum mechanics. Particles could be waves, observation changed outcomes, and entanglement emerged as a key mystery. Entanglement: when two particles form one linked system, change one, the other responds instantly. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. Experiments have repeatedly confirmed entanglement across kilometers, and even between satellites. Recent Nobel-winning work has shown entangled particles correlate instantly, independent of distance. This is striking. Quantum connections don't diminish with distance, similar to how scripture describes prayer's reach. Could this be a physical mechanism underlying spiritual connection? Scientists caution. Entanglement doesn't transmit classical information faster than light, but it changes how we think about non-locality. Still, the idea that nature allows instantaneous correlation is fundamental. Next, we'll examine whether consciousness itself might operate at quantum scales. If consciousness has quantum properties, the implications for prayer are profound. Some prominent scientists, like Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff, propose consciousness has quantum aspects. They suggest microtubules in the brain might host quantum processes linked to consciousness. If consciousness includes quantum effects, it may not be strictly local to brain tissue. It could engage non-local connections. That means thoughts could, in principle, reach beyond ordinary space. John 4:24. God is spirit, and his worshippers must worship in the spirit and in truth. The spiritual claim that worship transcends physical limits matches the non-local idea. Researchers like those at the Pear Lab studied distant intention and small but significant effects on physical devices. These experiments suggest consciousness can correlate with physical systems at a distance. Most of this research remains controversial and requires replication, but it's intriguing. If real, non-local consciousness could help explain instantaneous prayer responses. Another quantum principle with spiritual resonance is the observer effect. Next, how observation collapses possibility into reality, and what that means for faith. The observer effect shows particles exist as probability until measured, then collapse into a definite state. Conscious observation appears to affect outcomes at the quantum level. This resonates with biblical teachings about faith influencing reality. Matthew 21:22. If you believe, you will receive whatever you ask for in prayer. Some theorists propose focused consciousness could bias quantum probabilities toward specific outcomes. If true, prayer as focused intention could plausibly influence the behavior of underlying quantum systems. Most physicists emphasize that claims remain speculative and mechanistic explanations are incomplete. Still, the conceptual overlap is striking. If observation and non-locality operate at a cosmic scale, we can re-examine divine omniscience. Next, could entanglement help explain how God knows everything simultaneously? Some physicists suggest particles were entangled at creation, producing an interconnected cosmic system. If so, the universe could be fundamentally non-local. Psalm 139. 2. You know when I sit and when I rise, you perceive my thoughts from afar. An entangled cosmos gives a framework where simultaneous knowledge and access are natural. This doesn't reduce God to physics. Rather, it suggests spiritual realities may be woven into the cosmos. Scripture describes God as outside and sustaining creation, consistent with omniscience beyond entangled constraints. Scientists caution about conflating metaphor with mechanism. Still, the analogy is useful. It offers a language to talk about how God could hear billions of prayers at once. Max Planck suggested consciousness may be fundamental, not derived from matter. Next, consciousness as a fundamental field and experimental hints. Planck. I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness. This suggests consciousness could be a pervasive field the brain accesses. Pair and similar experiments reported small but statistically significant effects of intention on devices. Effects were subtle, contested, but persisted across decades of study. Recent studies explore distant intention, biological response, and non-local correlations. These experiments hint consciousness may interact with physical systems in ways not yet fully understood. If prayer accesses a fundamental field, then worship is a real engagement with the fabric of reality. Acts 17:28. In him we live and move and have our being. This brings us to accounts of distant healing and Jesus' miracles at a distance. Next, can quantum principles help explain distant healing as described in Scripture? In John 4:46-54, Jesus heals an official's son from afar. The father believes, and at that moment the son is healed. This is an example of distant effect in Scripture. If biological processes operate with quantum elements, then consciousness-influenced quantum states could affect healing. Researchers like Dr. Larry Dossey compiled studies suggesting prayer can influence health outcomes. This synthesis doesn't reduce prayer to mere physics. It suggests spiritual realities may be woven into the cosmos. Much remains speculative and requires careful scientific validation. As quantum science advances, the gap between science and spirituality may continue to narrow. Freeman Dyson. Science and religion are two windows. They look out at the same universe. From entanglement to non-local consciousness and the observer effect, science is catching up to what Scripture taught about prayer. Prayer may be a fundamental engagement with cosmic reality, exactly as Jesus taught. If this exploration enlightened you, please like, share, and subscribe for more where science and Scripture converge. Share your prayer experiences below, and remember, your prayers may be operating through quantum principles science is only beginning to understand.